li tàbbi te miinuma ko.
What fell into the sea is unusual and resembles no light, yet I believe its profound nature is luminous. Who has already attempted to solve such an enigma? Something falls into the sea, never appearing to me as a light, and yet its intrinsic reality reveals itself to be luminous. He questions its origin, and it is gradually revealed to him until a finality manifests in reality. It is then that he is told it is an emanation from Al-Haqa'iq al-Munzil. In his dialect, he expresses his revelation with the phrase bimunzil, using a metaphor for lack of an immediate reference to which this new reality could be attached. He then declares, "Never before had I contemplated such a light. Driven by astonishment, I questioned, is it truly light? And I was answered, its nature is undeniably luminous, although you have never perceived it as such. Yet never have I seen such light." In his questioning, he receives the answer. This light comes from Al-Haqa'iq al-Munzil. From then on, he affirms that I will name this reality with the definition bimunzil. The moment when the light fell into the sea was a singular instant. This light illuminated the sea in a way that no language could fully describe. For the waves, which until then were observed in their usual appearance of moving water, ceased to manifest as such. Their nature metamorphosed. They were no longer simple waves, but became impetuous torrents, like those floods that project themselves upwards, rising until the inner vision can no longer grasp them. Then, in a reverse movement, they fell back towards the depth, coming to crash onto the pedestal where the spear that had once split the sea into two pointed. This is how he observed the phenomenon, in a setting where light had transformed the sea. Pushing this gaze beyond appearances, he reached a perception where the ozone presented itself to him as a mirror. His soul, immersed in the divine realms, had projected itself there in reality, oscillating between these two spheres until one had the impression that the divine realms and the divine reality had unified into one. What was at the origin of the fusion of these two dimensions is the singular light, bimunzil. Thus, he turned to the Quran with a new interpretation of the verse, Qaba Qawsaini aw Adna. For now he perceived this proximity established by Allah, an elusive proximity that transcended all ordinary understanding. He contemplated this sparkling light within himself, a light that remained captive within itself, with nothing escaping from it. When this light blazed up, generating torrents, the vision became clearer. One could distinctly see the sea and the spear that had pierced it, as previously described. The two parts of the sea, formerly separated and whose nature had been metamorphosed by light into impetuous torrent, then began to gradually recompose. What had been fragmented regained cohesion until the whole erected itself into an existence. This existence manifests itself through an intrinsic duality, presenting two distinct aspects. One, inaccessible to inner vision, remains in shadow. The other, where inner vision manages to extend, shines with light. Thus, it is described as an upright light, whose face perceivable through inner vision is illuminated, revealing itself in all its clarity, while the other phase, located beyond the field of this perception, takes on the appearance of a shadow. However, a certainty remains for the one who contemplates it. Although this supreme existence seems endowed with two opposing phases, they actually form only one and the same entity. This is why he turned once more to the Quran, taking it up again with the same quest. And since his point of reference was Allah, he undertook to search among the pages those that resonate most with his inner vision. Thus, he became aware that his perception found a particular echo in these words, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Qul huwa Allahu Ahad. From then on, he deduced Bimunzil Ahad. For the light he perceives is the very one that has deployed until reconstituting the whole of reality, to such an extent that what he formerly considered as a simple metaphor had been transmuted, revealing a two-phase structure. One located behind remains inaccessible to his perception. This is why he designates it as the dark side, because his inner vision cannot pierce its mystery. What lies behind remains veiled, protected by a form of shadow. The other phase, on the other hand, consists only of light, and it is this one that stands before him, fully revealing itself to his gaze. He then observes that, despite the apparent distinction of the two phases, he actually perceives only a single unit existence. Then he declares, as I had taken Allah as my starting point, I will return to the Quran. Thus he realizes that Allah has propelled him to the very heart of the Quran, revealing to him these words, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Then the Surah Al-Ikhlas through the statement, Qul huwa Allahu Ahad. He then draws a striking conclusion, and in profound wonder, he affirms Bimunzil Ahad. But he still has no confirmation. Why? Because the space in which he finds himself is the divine realms, a domain where his peers coexist, but also his spiritual master, whose rank far exceeds his own. Thus, everything he perceives before he can express or relate it must first be confirmed, for he evolves in a space that belongs to another. It is at this moment that his mind then questions who could interpret this manifestation for him. For the reality he perceives in connection with the Lord belongs to a distant dimension. He then seeks the one who can give him the interpretation. Thus a man emerges, clothed in imposing majesty, whose spiritual state reaches a supreme degree. His presence is no singular, that the one who contemplates him could not say whether he emerges from the divine realms or whether he comes from the divine reality itself. Intrigued, he addresses this being of great stature by calling him by the name which in dialect used evokes a soul, more precisely, Ruhul Qudus. However, this appellation here does not have the usual meaning attributed to Ruhul Qudus. Its usage in this context is specific to this dialect and carries a particular nuance. It is then that he questions him under the envelope of this Ruhul Qudus on the question, where does this being come from? And the man answers him, I come from Janibul Kauni. Yet the space where the questioner stands, in his inner vision, reveals no world named Janibul Kauni. Similarly, when he peers into the distance, he distinguishes no world corresponding to this appellation. The being then declared to him, I come from Janibul Kauni. He stood before him, resplendent, his radiant beard illuminating his face, his red cloak floating with presence, and his turban radiating such intense light that it seems to reflect what he had glimpsed in his inner vision. This light, whose origin he has never been able to determine and which he had named Al-Haqa'iq al-Munzil, seemed to manifest itself again before him through the turban of this majestic being. Seized by the moment, he expressed this man in these terms: I would like to obtain confirmation on what I perceive in my vision in order to truly understand the true nature. The man then replied, Come, I will gather for you all metaphors and dialects into a single framework. If you pronounce it, the one you face will deliver to you the confirmation you seek. This confirmation, which is none other than the very existence you observe. Then he continued by asking him, Do you have the term Allah with you? He replied, Yes. Then the man said to him, Give it to me. He handed it to the man, and the man solemnly declared, Allahumma salli ala buhurika rasfi bimunzil ahad. It is at this precise moment that he obtained his confirmation. It took form at the very moment when this being pronounced these words in his favor. It was then that a ball of light sprang forth and was projected against his chest. It is at this moment that he fully became aware that he could continue what he was contemplating in his vision. For when this man uttered these terms, and this light penetrated his chest, the sea he had perceived until then, with its two faces opened again, but this time in a transfigured form. It recomposed itself in a new structure, taking on the aspect of scattered pearls dispersed.
ay forme perle yu ñu dispersé la